Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here for JOYRIDERTV, coming to you live from the Wildwind workshop where miracles take place every day and piles of bits are turned back into functioning catamarans. Yes, this is a live Q&A session, but I think for the majority of you guys watching, you'll be watching this later on. Where it's no longer live, but it's still a Q&A session. If you do have any questions that you want answering and you're not watching live, then just put them in the comments below and I will respond to those questions in next week's live Q&A. Coming to you from Wildwind Sailing Holidays on the Greek island of Lefkos, where the wind is absolutely pumping, proper champagne sailing conditions. I've been out on a 16 most of the afternoon, firstly solo, filming the first of what I'm going to have as a new series, which is called, if anybody recognizes this, put it in the live chat. It's called Down the Mine Shaft Speed Run. If you recognize that, then put it in the live chat. I'd be quite interested to know, where basically I do a timed speed run. I went for 7 minutes of fury, and using Telemetry Overlay, which is the software that I use for putting the telemetry on the videos, I'll be able to see what distance was covered in that 7 minute period. Should be very interesting indeed. And I got a top speed of 22.75 on the 16 solo, and then I went out sailing on the same 16 with people, and the highest speed I got this afternoon was 23.75, which I could tell you was cooking the goose. Very good. All right, just checking in with everyone who's checking in. Hello, Charlie's Sailing, who asks, Joe, can kids go out on the foiling laser? My friend wants to know.
Stephania Papadamiana.
2 shakes. Just going to set my thing to do not disturb. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, so can young people go out on the foiling laser here at Wildwind? If you haven't seen the foiling laser, check out the videos on that on the channel. Basically, we do generally have an age limit of 16 years old, but if your friend or the younger person is already a very good laser sailor and we have the permission from the parents, then yes, we can make the exception if they are under 16. So there we go. All right, we got Black Sheep on board from Florida. Glad to make it in this time. This is a very good question, actually. Black Sheep asks, what is the secret to keeping a baseball cap on your head when in the trapeze? Well, the first thing I would say is settings. I always put my hat 1 bead tighter for sailing than I would have for casual wear of that hat in and around the beach. And then it's all about angle. You're playing the wind shifts. So if you feel that the wind is getting under the peak of the hat, just tilting the head down a little bit to get a bit more wind on top, and then just being really aware of that angle. I do have it quite a lot where I'm sailing with somebody wearing a cap and they have their head back a little bit too much. Cap gets blown off the head and into my face. Thank you very much. But yeah, all about angle of the head. So if you feel it going, just tilt your head down, wind will blow onto the top. Very nice. All right, we got Jens on board as well. Hello, Jens, who is coming tomorrow for some sailing. Great stuff. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. I won't be around tomorrow, unfortunately. We got Mike from Washington. Thanks for tuning in, Mike. We've got none other than off his hands, Dave, Hobie 16 Amateur Hour. Please welcome Steve, Ali, and Bill to the Hobie community. They bought my boat. See you in September. Yeah, so welcome Steve, Ali, and Bill, who've just got a hold of one of the best looking yellow 16s out there. Congratulations. It was a very good choice. Dave continues, they have 2 teenagers who will soon be flying hull in North. Is that a real name? Kakalaki. Kakalaki, yes. Very good. All right. Dave's getting in on the cap chat as well. He says the key to cap wear is by having a tether. Yeah, we do supply a lot of lines to our guests here to tie the cap onto the buoyancy aid. Is very popular. Nice. All right, we got Martin on board. Hello, Martin. Martin says he's finally on the water for the first time this year. Reached a record speed of 5.3 knots. The goose is not quite cooked yet. Yeah, I would say that is not fit for eating at this stage. I would certainly cook it for a bit longer. But good to get out there and to get a speed down. So then you can just build upon that. That's what we're doing with the speed stick. Incidentally, with the speed stick, I just recorded the speed stick update video this morning, but it is going to take quite some time to edit. So hopefully I'll have that out early next week for you to take a look at. If you're not yet on the speed stick, even with a speed of 5.3 knots, still worth getting on there. It's a good way of recording your speed and seeing where you're sitting in the global Joyrider TV community. All right, Michael says, just finished building my own spinnaker pole with bridle wires. Thanks for the videos. Very welcome. Hope it wasn't too much of a difficult task. Got Aaron on board from a chilly -1 in New Zealand. Love it. The Q&A sessions, always learn something. Yeah, thanks for staying up so late to watch it as well, Aaron. It must be something close to, what, 3 in the morning where you are? So well done. I think if anybody's watching later, then do let us know. Got DC Racing from Texas City, Texas. Good to have you on board. Stephen's on board. Oh, yeah, Michael's spinnaker is going on a Hobie 16. Incidentally, for those of you who are paying attention there. Right, we got Ali on board as well in North Carolina. Thanks for tuning in. Very good. We got HJ from Lake Constance. I believe Lake Constance actually crosses some borders. Is it actually in 3 different countries? Is it in Germany, Austria, and somehow Italy as well? Answers on a postcard, please, HJ. Let us know. Then we got Max from Rosenheim, Germany, who was just here last week doing some very good sailing out here. He says, hello to the worldwide catamaran community. Weekend wind forecast makes me smile. Yeah, that's the nice thing about being into a sport that depends on the wind, because when the wind is looking good, you know you're in for a good time. All right, DC Racing says, we just bought a Nacra 5.8 fast boat, sailed it last Saturday. Thanks to the videos. Sailed it for the first time. It was awesome. Great stuff. Very glad to hear that, DC Racing. Let's get some pictures for Show Us Your Cat. Unless we've seen it already. We have seen a lot on Show Us Your Cat. Incidentally, Show Us Your Cat. You may be wondering, why has there not been as much Show Us Your Cat as there has been previously? I could tell you why. It's because out of everything that I do on Joyrider TV, Show Us Your Cat takes the most time. So that is why there hasn't been any Show Us Your Cat lately, because I would say in total, one episode of Show Us Your Cat probably takes getting on for, I would say half a day, but I think it's actually longer than that. But let's say half a day, and it's difficult to find a spare half a day these days. So that is the why there. We've got Ollie Smith in the live chat who says, whoop, conditions were banging today. Yes, they certainly were. Absolutely sending it. All right, we've got Jan Leo, who I believe is somewhere in the Berlin area of Germany, says, I'm going to the Tornado World Championships. Woo-hoo-hoo! Yes, even managed to secure a sponsorship. Any tips on how to be competitive? First serious tornado event for me. Yeah, all right. How to be competitive. I would say if you can, get to the event site as early as is feasible. So if you can have like 2 full days at the venue of the event before the event starts, so you can get your boat built in loads of time and spend some time on the water where the event is going to be, that really helps. Because if you turn up and you've only got time to build the boat, and then next thing you know, you're doing a practice race and then you're off, then if something isn't quite right with your boat, or if something breaks, you haven't really got much time to put it right. Also, it gives you a bit of a chance to get used to the conditions, which in the summer would generally be fairly stable from day to day. Yeah, so getting there early is number one. Number two would be talk to the Tornado fleet is so friendly. So talk to the other guys in the fleet. Get them to have a look at your boat as well, so that maybe they can help you with some settings for your crew weight and the conditions which are going to be at the event. And then the next thing is just to make sure before you go, you've got your maneuvers dialed. So you're tacking. If your crew is someone you can sail with at home, practice your tacking, your jibing, your hoists, jibing with the spinnaker, your drops, and then practice all that lot. Practice the bear away. Yeah, so if there's a buoy on the lake where you normally sail, like here, the best one is a downwind buoy. I beg your pardon, the best, where it's best to have both buoys. Just practice as much as you can coming into the buoy, getting in off the trapeze, turning and getting the spinnaker up and pulling as soon as you can. Practice that. And then the same, practice coming in here, getting the spinnaker down and going round the buoy. But of course, on a Tornado racetrack, there's going to be 2 leeward marks. So you have got the option to go around this one or this one. So if you've just got one buoy to practice with, practice going around it both ways. That will really help you a lot. Yeah, I think that's quite a lot to be going on with. So practice the mark roundings at the leeward mark both ways, and at the windward mark, of course, just one way, and try to get it all as smooth and so that you've got it's all set in place. So when you're actually on the race course, you don't have to think about the boat handling aspect. All you have to think about is how you're going to position yourself with the other boats which are in the same area as you at that time. One little strategy kind of point is, if you are coming into this downwind gate, you may be thinking which way to go. Usually one side of the course will be favoured. It might be that there's a good wind shift, or we're usually looking for stronger wind in the fast catamaran. If there's stronger wind over here, it means we want to get to that as soon as we can. So if it's a definite one side is favoured, then of course going around that buoy to get into that stronger wind as soon as possible is really going to help. But if it's a bit more even, I would always choose less traffic. So if there's boats lining up around here, going this way, you're going to be into a world of dirty wind. Whereas going this way, and even if this side is favoured, you could sail for 10 boat lengths this way and then tack. And that's going to work better for you. So I hope that helps, Jan Leo, and very good luck. And yeah, let us know how you're getting on when you're there. All right, we've got Han in the live chat. Han is actually here with us at Wildwind Sailing Holidays. You may remember Han from one of the episodes of What Went Wrong. It was Han with the Dart 18 with the quick release tow strap who got ejected from there. All right, so we've got Martin who says, curious to know if a two-man crew can right a capsized tornado. Well, you're not going to believe it, but we actually had a upside down tornado incident today, where the mast, it was the tornado with the aluminium mast that we have here, and it capsized. And unfortunately, the mast did fill with water while it was inverted, which actually meant it was impossible to bring the boat back upright from capsized. So we needed the help of a power boat to get the boat back upright. But if you have got a sealed mast on the tornado, then yes, you should be able to bring it back upright. Especially if you've got a carbon mast. With the carbon mast, the rig is so light, but it's very easy to bring it back upright. With the aluminium mast, it is a bit more difficult. So you will need a bit more wind or a certain amount of weight. I would say in zero wind, haven't actually done any testing on this, by the way, but I'm just guessing that in zero wind, you probably would need about 160 kilograms to get a capsized aluminium masted tornado back upright. So there we go. All right, we've got No One Gets Out Alive. Hello, No One Gets Out Alive. Good to hear from you. Who says my brother-in-law and I can get our hands on an old Hobie 16. We're both beginners and rather heavy, 180 kilos total. Do you reckon a Hobie 16 would be a decent choice for us? I would say yes. It's still, even with 180 kilograms on the boat, if you're just out for fun sailing, even in a light wind, the 16 is going to tickle along reasonably well. The 16 is a very powerful boat for the size. The ideal choice for your weight would be a Hobie 18 if we're going down this Hobie route. By the way, apologies to everybody who's not Hobie or Tornado who watches Joyrider TV. It may at times feel that it's a little bit Hobie biased over here, but that is because in my daily life, I am mainly dealing with Hobies. So apologies for that if anybody ever feels a bit left out. If NACRA are watching and they want to get some NACRAs down here to get some NACRA videos out, then yes, please come down with a big trailer, full range, and we could spend a whole week going through the whole range of NACRAs. But we need the boats. That's the thing. But anyway, yeah, the 16 would be good even if you are a bit heavy. And then as the wind gets stronger, your extra weight is really going to help to pin it down. But the ideal would be if it's a Hobie 18 or something with slightly more volume in the hulls. There we go. All right, Jan Leo says, with the aluminium mast and strong winds, it's easy. Lower winds. Oh, here we go. Oh, in response to the tornado capsize question. There we go. So Jan Leo says, if it's windy, yes, it's doable. All right, we've got Mark and Janet on board from Ohio, USA. We've got Will Inili. Great to have you on board, Will. Laura's on board as well, Fleet 240 Santa Cruz. Hello to everybody from Santa Cruz and from everywhere else. I don't think that's how she intended that anyway. DC Racing, what went wrong? We had a shroud line break. Taking the sails off in the water is not fun. First time sailing, that made it interesting to say the least. Yes, so if you do have your mast come down, then it is necessary to take the mainsail and the jib, if possible, off the mast. So just as a general thing, if you lay the mast kind of diagonally across the trampoline on the boat, so if this is the boat here, here's the trampoline. I have had quite some experience with this, and if you lay the mast kind of like this with the sail, then you might have to swim to the top of the mast to unhook the halyard, and then once you've unhooked the halyard, you can push the whole rig this way so that you can get to the bottom of the mast, and then you just have to pull it out. But be aware that when you're trying to pull the sail out of the mast, we want to have the mast, so this is the mast, and the sail in line. It's very easy for the mast to be like this with the sail here, and that's going to jam a lot. So that's going to make it a lot more difficult. So there we go. All right, Will says 130 to 145 kilos on the 16. Yeah, that is optimal. But if you're just sailing recreationally and there's a 16 that's come up for sale at a very good price in your area, I would say heavier is okay too. All right, we got Greg on board from Houston, Texas. Great to have you on board there, Greg. Thanks for tuning in. And we've got Damned Sharp Knives, who says, hi all. I think after this is finished, everybody should check out Damned Sharp Knives' channel. I would be quite intrigued to see what's on there. All right, we've got Not Ausgang, which I have learned means emergency exit. Says, hello to all from Austria. Dog is here, waiting for sailing instructions. Goes out for motorbike tour tomorrow. Great stuff. Right, Arno's on board, who says, after some scrubbing, the decks of my 40-year-old Hobie 16 are now squeaky clean. Do you use a particular product to protect them? Wax? Yeah, maybe like a polish. And in fact, we've got one just here. This sort of polish will protect the gel coat. This stuff is called 3M Perfected Gel Coat Light Cutting Polish and Wax. One step. I would go for something like that. That's going to really help to protect your hulls. So yes, and yes. All right. So at this stage, I'm just going to take a short commercial break before moving on to the preloaded questions. And we're back. By the way, did you know that over at totaljoyrider.com, you could get t-shirts, hoodies, and hats that say Joyrider on them. And I can even do for you custom designs. So if you're going to an event I could do you a design that's got your boat name on it, your sail number, even your class of boat. And I'm actually shipping now from every different continent in the world, apart from, all right, that's not actually true. We're now shipping from America, we're shipping from Europe, we're shipping from the UK, and we're shipping from Australia. So if you want anything, let me know. There we go. And anything you get from there directly supports Joyrider TV, and hopefully it's going to mean I can buy a new computer, because my computer is very much struggling with the footage at the moment. It's an old girl. All right, so I'm just going to go into the first preloaded question, which comes from Anthony, who I believe is in Hong Kong, I think. And he's talking about capsizing with the spinnaker up. He says, I'm imagining the situation of falling into the spinnaker when pitch poling. Seems like a dangerous situation. Could that happen, and how do we avoid that, and what do we do if that was to happen? Yeah, it is a concern. But can it happen? Yes, unfortunately it can. Because one of the main reasons of a pitch pole, especially on a boat which has a lot of volume, I don't even know if I'm going to draw anything, to be honest, is when the bows go in, it's the weight of the people flying forwards a lot of the time that actually capsizes the boat. So if the bows go in, boat stops, the crew might swing on the trapeze and go into the spinnaker. But because of the geometry of where everything is on the boat, it is more likely that the crew would actually go in front of the spinnaker rather than into it. But there is always a chance that it could happen. So what do you do if it does happen? What I would suggest is, if you do land in the spinnaker, just start going towards the luff, the front edge, because the luff of the spinnaker is going to be tight. So it's going to be easier. You can grab hold of it and actually pull yourself forwards a bit. And then you can just work your way along the luff. Use the luff like a rope, luff being the front edge, like this, working your way along the luff until you get to the bowsprit, and then you should be able to get out of the spinnaker. But yes, I agree. It is a bit of a worrying situation with the spinnaker if you were to end up in it. But the main thing is, if you do end up in the spinnaker, don't panic. Because in theory, you would just end up feet first into the spinnaker, or sort of body first, and then just what I do every time I land in the water is I reach up first just to see if there's anything above me. And then if there is, I might even open my eyes under the water, although it hurts a little bit, just to get an idea of where the obstruction stops. But the main thing is, don't panic. I think that's pretty good. All right, we got Valentin on board, who says, hi, Joe. Thanks for the good work. Thank you for thanking me for the good work. Any quick tip about how to deal with a slippery tiller extension? Trying tennis overgrip at the moment. Hopefully it will be durable enough. Yeah, if you have got a persistently slippery tiller extension, I think the tennis racket or golf grip is a very good option, although that would only generally, I suppose if it's like the tape could go down, but how well is it going to cope with the salt water? What is generally a normal thing to do is to wind rope around, like a thin rope, like a 4 or a 5 millimeter rope, wind it round the end of the tiller extension, go down it as much as you want, and then put tape over the top, winding round. like electrical tape, or I've never tried it, but maybe you could try self-amalgamating tape. 1 minute, show you what that looks like. So this is self-amalgamating tape, which it basically sticks to itself. So it's got a backing, and then you peel the backing off and stretch it onto itself, and it makes a very permanent bond. So it's on forever unless you cut it off with a knife. It's more expensive than electrical tape significantly, but that around the tiller extension with some neatly done rope around it would actually look pretty pro, I reckon. All right, Greg says, in need of repairing my dagger boards, what do you like to fill with to patch damaged areas? Then I'll sand and paint. Yeah, I generally use the West System epoxy with some micro bubbles. Some like what micro bubbles are is it's like a thickening, it's a thickener. Let's call it a thickener. So instead of just epoxy, we're putting thickened epoxy in there. But if they're really badly damaged, then you might want to actually consider using a bit of fiberglass mat in there as well to build it back up. Or if your dagger boards have got carbon, maybe even some carbon with the epoxy might be nice. But for little chips, I use the epoxy from West System with the thickening paste to make it thick enough so that it stays in there. There we go. Black Sheep says, do you have the baseball caps in stock? Yeah, in the online store, everything you see there is in stock. So go for your guns. Those are nice hats. All right, Greg says, same for a few small areas on the hulls. Same answer, I would say. I think if you were keen on getting a really good finish, like gel coat filler is good for the hulls. But I think in the foils, the epoxy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the epoxy sets a bit harder, so it's a bit more durable, and the foils really need that durability. All right, we got Barry on board. Hi, Barry. Great to hear from you. Barry was in the live Q&A live audience probably about this time last year, maybe a bit later in the season, from sunny Daytona, Florida. Great to hear from you. Good stuff. All right. HJ says, any advice to repair small damages on the EPO 3s? I would go to the same as previous answer when we were talking about the dagger boards, with the epoxy with the paste to thicken it, or using a bit of some carbon fiber if it's on that trailing edge. Just as it would only need to be a very small piece of carbon fiber to get that repair in there. All right, Will says bamboo canes for tiller extensions. Now, funny you should say that, but back in the day, probably about 20 years ago, we heard that the Hawaiian Olympic or the Hawaiian 49er teams used bamboo for their tiller extensions, and we thought we're going to have a go at that. So we did use bamboo for the tiller extensions on the 49er. Now, the reason it worked on the 49er was because the rudders on the 49er are extremely light. There's zero load at all. And also, there's very little chance of the tiller extension getting into the water. Whereas on a 16 or a catamaran, there's generally a bit more load in the rudders, and then there's the chance of the the tiller extension going between the back beam and the rudder stock, where it gets pulled in the water and bent. And what we found with bamboo is it is absolutely lethal once it's snapped. It is like a very sharp killing stick. So for that reason, we stopped using the bamboo and we stuck to traditional materials. For our general catamaran tiller extensions, we just use aluminium tube, and then we put an end fitting on. And then for our more posh tiller extensions, we use carbon tube and then put a fitting in the end. Easy. It's very inexpensive. It's not quite as nice as the real stuff. The carbon tube's all right, but no way near as nice as a Malcheski Composites Pro Joyrider tiller extension. That's for sure. All right, HJ says video is frozen. I hope that we're all right here. Looks like it should be all right. All right, Dan Noisemaker, hello. Welcome on board. Says my boat is making a lot of noise, hum, when I'm going over a certain speed. Could it be the dagger boards or the rudders or a combination of both? That's Tom there. Yeah, what it is a lot of the time is if you, I'm guessing if you're sailing a boat with dagger boards, then you've got the daggers and the rudders have got a kind of like a fiberglass based construction or epoxy or something nice. What happens is if the trailing edge of your foil, whether it's a dagger board or a rudder, comes to a sharp point like this, then what happens is this point, when you're going fast, starts vibrating. This is vibration marks. And that vibration makes the noise, and then the noise gets amplified by the hulls. So that is what makes that noise. It was very popular in the earlier Hobie Tigers. It would sound absolutely amazing, but at times the noise is quite nice because it's like having a speedometer on the boat. As the pitch gets higher, you know that you're going faster. Very nice. Yeah, so if you really want to get rid of the noise, what you can do is just take that point off. So it's just flat at the end. And that is really going to help to reduce that noise. Another type of noise you might have if you are sailing a Hobie and you've got the Lexan rudder blades. Now they make a very good noise when you start going fast, quite similar to that of a whale, very low pitched, and there's nothing you could do about that, unfortunately. All right, so back to the next preloaded question, which is from Michael in South Australia. And he says, I'm interested in the roll of furling system in a Hobie 16. Any information on that? Yes, we did used to use roller furling jibs on the 16s here. First thing is, before you can have a rolling jib on a 16, it does need to be a specific sail. You can't just whip the battens out of your regular 16 jib. So a regular 16 jib, there's the front, there's the bottom. I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit. And there's the back. So if I got a straight line available, here we go. It's my straight line. Woohoo! If we draw, what color? If we draw a straight line on here, there we go. So anything outside of that straight line is going to flap badly. So this is why you need to have a specific jib if it's going to be furling. If you've got a jib in good condition, which is the same colors as your mainsail, a very nice option would be to actually take the jib to a sailmaker and get them to convert it. But a straight line isn't enough. So if they did cut any, this is what we call roach, by the way. Roach means any cloth that is outside of that line. So if they just cut the roach off, it's still going to flap. So what we need is a bit of, do you call it scooped leech, which would be, this is an exaggeration, like this, and then the jib is good for rolling. So that's what we need to do. I believe that there are actually, I dare say all of the sailmakers would be very happy to build you a jib suitable for rolling on a 16. So once we've got the sail, we're then going to need the furler. This is the type of furler that we want for a 16 or similar, because with this type of furler, it's not going to affect the length of your rigging. I'll just show the other type of furler. The other type of furler is like this, with these wings on it. And you can't put a furler like this on a 16 because it's going to affect the, it's going to not work unless you've got specific rigging made for it. So a furler like this is perfect. So all that you need to do is where the bridle wires come together, where they would usually shackle onto here, instead, that's going to shackle onto there. And then the chain plate is just going to go onto here. And then you're done. Forestay at the end, attach the jib. Easy. That's all you need to know for the furling jib on a 16. Of course, you will need a cleat on your front beam for the line. There we go. All right, so Barry says, if I can throw in my experience of coated cables, once they start to have a ripple appear under the coating, the cable is finished. My broken forestay and recent dismasting experience confirms this. There we go. So thanks for that, Barry. Yeah, so if you've got coated rigging cables on your boat, they're starting to ripple, might be time to change them. If you haven't changed your rigging in the last 4 years, might be time to change it there. All right, thanks for that, Barry. All right, so yeah, the Toblerone was when the Swiss came out. Very nice, the custom box there, brilliant. All right, next preloaded question comes from Stephen, who was actually out here a few weeks ago. Stephen sails on Graffham Water in the UK. He says, we're talking about helmets. First question, when is it appropriate to wear a helmet? For me, I wear a helmet when I feel that there is a good chance that I am going to capsize. The thing that the helmet, I think, on a catamaran like that we're talking about, main things that your head might come into contact with is actually not the boom as much as you would think. I think everybody who has learnt to sail has learnt to duck under the boom. When you get to the level that you're sailing in a strong enough wind that the boom might actually hurt your head, I think the things that are likely to hit you on the head is when you capsize, you might go into the mast. One of the worst ones is if the boat slows down suddenly, and then the crew or the helm on the trapeze might start twisting round, so they don't know where they're flying to. They're going backwards. And then if instead of a pitch pole, it's a sideways capsize, you could then hit the back of your head on the mast pretty hard. So I would say if the wind is particularly gusty or you feel that there's a good chance of a capsize, then that is when the helmet is necessary. You could also, if you get very unlucky, if you capsize sideways and you slip over the hull which is up, you could actually go backwards onto your head on the hull which is in the water. So that is when I would say the helmet is appropriate. Next part of the question, what are you being protected from? Oh, I think I might have just said that already. But I'd say number one, the mast, number two, the boom, and number three, the hull. And if you're sailing a boat with a bowsprit, the bowsprit is something else that you could, of course, hit with your bonds. So I think it is a good idea to wear a helmet. But I think at the same time, if you are wearing a helmet, you shouldn't then start getting used to hitting your head on the boom just because you can and it doesn't hurt. You should, if you've hit your head on the boom with a helmet on, that's a fail. So definitely try to duck low enough to get under the boom when changing tack. All right. So next part of the question, what is the difference between cheap and expensive helmets? I don't think for the sailing that we're doing, there's any need to spend more than 30 or 40 euros, 50 US dollars, 30 pounds. The helmet that I use is made by Mystic, which is actually a windsurfing, kite surfing, wing foiling brand. And it fits really well. I think the fit is very important. You want to have a hard shell on your helmet and you want to have a camera mount, of course. And then, of course, we've got some good padding on the inside. We're probably looking at about, I don't know, 15 mil of padding in there. So that's a good option. That's my own one. What we use at the sailing school here at Wildwind is Magic Marine, which happens to actually be the same company as Mystic. This is a bit lighter, actually, but a similar kind of vibe. Lots of padding inside. As long as it fits and you have the neck strap done up sufficiently, then we're good. With this one, it's got ear protection as well, which is a good idea, I think. But I don't think there's any need to go spending over $100 on a helmet. There's a brand called Gaff, who make a helmet which was called the Gaff, it was known as the Gaff Vader, which has got a whole like a visor that comes down covering your whole face, which is like sunglasses, which is pretty cool, but very expensive. And I've never tried one, but I would be intrigued. There we go. All right. So next question, Dennis. Yeah, I hope that's all right with the helmet. But I think if it's a reputable helmet making brand, like, oh, there's a lot of brands out there. Anything, as long as it fits well, it needs to be designed for water sports. So a helmet that's designed for anything like water skiing, jet skiing, kite surfing, windsurfing, anything like that is going to be fine for boat sailing. Generally, I think you might even find they're a bit cheaper than specific boat sailing helmets, which might be a bit more expensive. Like the popular brand is what's it called? Forward Sailing, WIP. Now, their equipment is quite expensive. It's very nice, but it's going to protect you the same amount as something like this Mystic, which is going to do the job. All right. So Dennis says, can you tow a Hobie 16 with a sedan? Which apparently Barry says the translation is a saloon or hatchback car. Yes, you can. You don't need much power to tow a Hobie 16. The thing that's gonna influence how much power you need is how heavy is the trailer and how much stuff you're taking. If you've got a big trailer with a big box on it and you've filled the box with all of your camping stuff, then you are going to need a car with a reasonable size engine, which pulls quite nicely. But most cars with like a, I'd say these days, even like a 1.2 litre engine should be worthy of pulling most catamarans up to about 20 feet. All right. So Mike says, did you ever try foot ropes on the rails and the back of the hull? Fantastic for locking in on a reach. Raced a lot back in the 70s. No, I never tried that actually. If you do have any pictures of the foot ropes, it's not something that you see much these days. So it'd be great if you did have any pictures, you could email them to me and then I could put them in the next Show Us Your Cat perhaps, and maybe even try some on one of the boats here. Thanks very much. All right, so I think on that note, we've reached the finish line of this Q&A. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. There we go. HJ tows his 16 with a Lada Neva. Nice choice. Yeah. So yeah, keep your eye out for the down the mine shaft speed running video coming this weekend. I also did possibly the fastest ever single-handed writing of a Hobie 16 from inverted. I think I had it back upright from inverted in, it felt like under a minute. So I might even put that out as a short video just so you can see the process there. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like on the video. Don't forget to visit totaljoyrider.com or Patreon if you would like to support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Bet you knew I was going to say that.